throughout the week and through the month of September. Karibu sana. So President William Ruto, as you've just heard in the news, was addressing the United Nations General Assembly yesterday. Talked about very many things. Well, he's been busy. He also gave an interview to Christian Amanpour of CNN, talked about various issues, has also talked in various fora. One of those fora, he was talking about how Kenya is leveraging the use of AI. We are leveraging the use of AI, for example, in our means testing instrument for university funding, where our AI is being used to see what is the financial capability of each individual student and then categorizing them in bands. That's what he said. And he also said that we're leveraging the use of AI to see how we distribute fertilizer to farmers in our fertilizer subsidy program, where we identify which farmer is this, what are they growing, what kind of fertilizer do they need, and they get the fertilizer. At Spice FM, we're also leveraging the power of AI. We have hired a person who is our AI, and his name is who? Arvin. Arvin, our AI, is, for example, right now determining who among the people that are subscribing to the Safaricom all-in-one package deserves 3,000 shillings today. And what do they need to do to get into the AI system?
In order for the AI system to select you by algorithm and Avin, what you need to do is dial *544#. All right? You get there, you go to the Go Monthly plan. The Go Monthly plan leads you to the all-in-one bundle. All-in-one, several things that you could do at the same time. You can talk, for example, 1,000 minutes a month. You can send messages, 2,000 messages a month, SMS now. Free WhatsApp for the whole month, as well as 17 GB data. So you can browse, you can talk, you can send messages, and you can get onto socials. Okay? All of that stuff, if you pay 2,000 shillings, you can have it for 30 days, and you never have to worry about whether you will get cut off from communication, or whether you will cease to browse the internet, whether you can hail your cab, whether you can, talk to your person, whatever. It will not stop. Because you did the all-in-one at the beginning of the month, and then you also said you're going to send a screenshot to our social, Spice FM KE, and that is how the AI will select you.
Leveraging the power of AI. It's the future, and the future is here today. Hi. Our conversation now is going to be about fire safety. Now, if you look at the papers today, and if you watched the news yesterday, and if you've been in this country for long enough, you know what happened at Hillside Academy in Endarasha a couple of weeks ago. And yesterday, there was a requiem service for all the 21 young boys that perished. And the Standard has a photo on the front page of the caskets, each of them with a photo of the fallen boy and a wreath on it. The Nation has the photos, mugshots of the 21 boys, all of them ranging between the ages of 12 and 13. There's one 11-year-old, Collins Moreidi Washira. The others are Lewis Mashira, also who is 11, 12 years old, 13-year-old, Timothy Wamai Gedenji, 14 years old. This is the sad story. 10 of them are to be buried today as investigations continue. They died in a fire incident in their dormitory one night. Okay? This is one. We have seen many cases of fires in schools, cases of fires at home, cases of fires in estates, where an estate catches fire and fire rages through an estate, fire in markets, fire destroys. We want to understand, does our law know fire? Is there any law in this Republic of Kenya that knows fire as fire? Not disasters, but fire. Wilson Goko is an advocate of the High Court, and he's a certified fire safety auditor. He's our guest. Wilson, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good to have you here on Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you for having me.
That's a hot seat. Your rangi. What color is that?
Canary yellow.
Eh?
Canary yellow.
Canary yellow.
Fire.
That's the red is fire. And then the yellow is not Uda.
You got me there.
Okay.
I'm not so versed in colors, but the red is the one that tells you.
You know the red.
Yeah, that guy is on fire.
The rest is his stories.
Yeah.
Karibu sana. We will talk about fire and fire safety, but first let me give you the day's proverb. So every week, our colleague Siti Muga, who's been on leave for a couple of days, goes to one African country and picks up proverbs from that country. And then he comes with a proverb a day from that country. The job of a guest is to listen to the proverb and give us their interpretation of that proverb, okay? So your job, Wilson, is to listen to today's proverb and give us your own interpretation. Proverbs for this week are from Senegal. You know where Senegal is? Yes?
Yes.
Where is it?
West Africa.
Very good. You get the marks. Okay. Today's proverb. If you speak, speak to him who understands you. If you speak, speak to him who understands you.
So
What's your interpretation? What does that proverb tell you?
if you're going to say something, make sure it lands on the ears of those who can make change or who can utilize it positively. So there's no point talking to the wrong focus group or wrong audience. Right information, right audience. That's what it tells me.
Very good. You've landed it. Yes.
Yes.
I see. It makes sense. Makes sense to me. So now let's speak to the right audience.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
About matters of fire. But first of all, who's a fire safety auditor? What do you do?
As a fire safety auditor, I am approved by a government body, the Ministry of Labour, through their Directorate of Occupational Safety and Health Services, DOSHS. They're located at Safety House, Commercial Street, and they are the ones with the mandate for approving experts to carry out safety audits, be fire, occupational safety and health, risk assessments, and many other safety-related inspections and audits.
Please say that entity again. Directorate of?
Directorate Occupational Safety and Health Services, DOSHS. You can find them on doshmis.go.ke. That is doshmis.go.ke.
Okay.
They are the regulator.
And they are nestled under the Ministry of Labour and Social
Protection.
Okay. How long have they been in existence?
I found them there when I relocated to Kenya after many years of working in the UK. So I cannot tell you their genesis, but it is more than 25 years.
Right.
They've been around.
Okay.
Yes.
So for you to get certified by DOSHS,
Yes.
what do you need to do?
You need to be a person with adequate training, experience, and knowledge in your field. So, for example, to be a fire safety auditor, you need to go through a vetting process. They interview you. It takes almost a whole day. You have to present yourself, present your papers, be vetted, and demonstrate your knowledge, expertise, and training, which qualifies you to be a fire safety auditor. If you want to be a health and safety auditor, similarly, you must also demonstrate that you have the right credentials.
Okay.
Yes,
So for
degrees and all such.
For you as a fire safety auditor, do you need any sort of certification to show that you've gone through some level of training on fire safety?
Yes.
And what is it that's recognized?
What is recognized is there's a certain degree you can do, health and safety degree. There are fire safety modules in various universities here and abroad. There's something called NEBOSH, National Examination Board of the UK. They issue certificates in fire safety. There's an Institute of Fire Engineers. They are very rigorous training you can get from them. And if you can pass those exams, it shows that you are competent. And when you go for the interview at DOSHS, and they see that you have passed these exams, and they ask you questions and see you're competent, then they can approve you as a fire safety auditor.
Okay. So that's how you get there. So what exactly does a fire safety auditor do?
A fire safety auditor carries out fire safety audits as per the Fire Risk Reduction Rules 2007 and the Occupational Safety and Health Act 2007. So you go to workplaces and you look at whether that workplace has met the statutory minimum safety requirements. I had the opportunity today to walk in from your front door, from the gate up to where I'm sitting now.
Usichome.
I'm happy to say.
Oh, very good.
I'm happy to say that Mumepita.
What did you see?
I saw multiple fire exits. I saw multiple fire extinguishers, multiple fire signs. I saw an evacuation map. I saw a first aid kit. I met with a fire marshal who is also the first aider, and I asked her several questions pertinent regarding her level of training. How often does she take the training? First aid training is annual. And in those few minutes, 10 minutes it took, and I saw very many minimums and above minimum. How many times does the committee here meet? She told me 5 times. The minimum by law is 4. And that was in a space of 10 minutes.
How do you know she was a fire marshal? Did she walk up to you and say, "Hi, I'm a fire marshal"?
No, I asked her, who is the fire marshal here?
Ah, right.
Who is the first aider here?
Okay.
Where are the exits? And she was telling me there it is, there. And so if I can meet somebody in a workplace and they give me those kind of questions within a space of 10 minutes, that shows there's a positive safety culture. And then I check that you have met the minimum statutory requirements. These are not requirements made up by Wilson Goko. These are passed by an act of parliament and other subsidiary legislation.
Okay, this is great because you talk about statutory requirements. Obviously, then it is law. An act of parliament has required that certain standards be set for safety.
Correct.
Obviously, we have this conversation usually around incidents that occur. It is my hope that we can be having them even when incidents don't occur.
Correct.
To keep the safety awareness right here at our eyeballs all the time. But I'd like to ask a question. You talk about fire safety auditors being called to workplaces when there's a need to see if, you've an audit. I mean, that's when it happens, to make sure that everything is at par. So that means that there are requirements, obviously.
Yes.
For the workplace. So you're going to have a workplace, you need to have certain things.
Exactly.
My attention wants to go to whereby it's not necessarily a workplace.
Yes.
And that is a place that is going to house children, for example, like schools.
Okay.
Where we see fires have been happening over the years, many, many times. And even this year, in the last 1 month, we've seen quite a number.
Yes.
The one that grabs our attention is one where these 21 beautiful children unfortunately passed. Are there requirements at other public spaces defined or required by law to meet a certain standard? And I'm talking about schools now and other social areas.
Thank you. That is the question I came here today to focus on. You have said other public spaces, and you've mentioned the word school apart as a word which is apart from a workplace. A school, for avoidance of doubt, is a workplace.
Yes, it is, yeah.
There are workers there, teachers, other staff. And the law describes a workplace as any land, any premises, any location, any vessel, anything at, in, upon, or near which a worker is in the course of employment.
Where?
That is everywhere.
It's everywhere.
And it says the act is there to protect persons who are at work and protect persons other than persons at work. So also those who are
persons at work and anybody else who's present.
Is there lawfully. If you are
like I'm
bagger,
a person at work here,
yes,
and you are also then protected,
yes,
right?
Because I am a visitor, or I can be a contractor, or I can be an agent. But if I'm here lawfully, it covers me. If I'm here unlawfully, it doesn't cover. So those are burglars and other terrorists and those other fellows.
Yes.
But it is that anything, everywhere, where there is a worker is a workplace. A school is a workplace.
Sure. I think my mind goes to then where children are living in school, in a boarding school, for example. So maybe that's why I did that, dissected that. But still, of course, take into consideration all of that. So what we are saying is that there is a statutory minimum that has been set by law that has to be abided by.
Yes.
Okay. So obviously, in the course of your work with audits, you would then be able to know what the situation is on the
Exactly.
ground. If you were to say, let's just assume Kenya has just 100 schools, boarding schools, just 100.
Yes.
What numbers are we looking at? That these 100 schools, because they're public places, we're using that as an example now.
Yes.
What would we say out of 100 have met the requirement where children can abide in these spaces and be safe when it comes to the disaster of fire? Just the disaster of fire, nothing else.
If you were to ask me my opinion and to give you a number out of 100 public schools, are we in public space or private schools?
Well, let's cut across.
School.
Schools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would honestly have to say less than 10%.
No way.
Yes way.
Why?
That is the question. The law has been here since 2007. It is not new. And once a law is published, it is gazetted, and then it is deemed that every person in Kenya is aware of it. The Ministry of Education has been making some efforts. You remember there was a guide, a manual that they had produced in 2008 after the same incidents, fires here and there. It is a good guide, but it is not produced. It's produced by the Ministry of Education, not by DOSHS. That is where fire experts like us reside, work, and are licensed. The Ministry of Education cannot regulate fire safety. It is not the regulator.
They can uphold.
They must uphold by
Yes.
law.
Yes.
But
They are the implementers.
they can, just like Standard Group is an occupier.
Yeah.
So you follow the law.
Yeah.
And you do everything that the law says you should do.
Okay.
But you can't enforce and you can't regulate. You can give guidance, you can give information and such. So the Ministry of Labour are trying. Where there is a lacuna or gap is that there is a disconnection between government agencies working together and integrating their approach to fire safety.
I think I want to go back to the regulator. DOSHS.
DOSHS.
That one.
Yes.
Okay. This regulator,
Yes.
what its attitude on the regulation and who it regulates? And I'm asking this in a way asking, does it seem to only focus on industrial workplaces? Or does it understand that its mandate covers everywhere across the country when it comes to safety and health safety? Because when you are licensed as auditors, many times you'll hear about the fire auditors and health auditors going into these places where it's big, it's industrial, it's commercial, it's private sector, right? Does the regulator, from your, I know they regulate, they license you and all, but from your observation, does the regulator have a focus on other areas, government institutions, public places, apart from commercial centers?
They do. As part of my job, I have audited all sectors. I'm licensed, we are licensed by them to audit every workplace of every kind in the Republic of Kenya. There's 31 offices that I know in counties where there's a sitting officer called a KOSHO, who is a County Occupational Safety and Health Officer. You can walk in there, it's a public place, and demand to know about the safety elements. You know of WIBA, if you're making a claim when you're injured at work, if your workplace is not registered, the WIBA claim will fail. Because where did you get injured? Did you get injured at home, at work? If so, if you are at work, is it a registered workplace? So that is the answer to your question. They are aware and they are active in all sectors in as much as their resources allow. I cannot speak to their operations because I'm not an employee there and I'm not authorized to speak about that. But I know we go as auditors everywhere and every place in this country.
Okay. Does the regulator periodically enforce safety standards in public places? Let's start with government offices
Or even check.
and go to schools. Does the regulator enforce fire standards as put in the law?
Required by law.
Fire safety regulation, reduction rules, and all the others. Does the regulator enforce in our schools?
They do. But first and foremost, the school has to be a registered workplace to come under the to present itself on the radar, so to speak.
All right.
So that brings the question: is there's a lot of unregistered schools?
We have over 40,000 registered schools in this
the
country.
country.
Wilson.
Yes,
Let's deal with those ones that are registered.
Yes, registered. When I said registered, I meant work as a workplace with the Ministry of Labour.
Okay, I'm sorry. I know you want to go on, but I must make this clarification. So if we are saying that you have not, because you gave the definition of a workplace.
Yes.
So are we saying that if you have not been registered as a workplace, then this statutory law then does not apply to you?
It applies, but you are non-compliant.
So
And
we
you
can't
are-
hold anything against you?
We can visit you at any time and enforce at any time. There is a office within DOSH for prosecutions and enforcement. There are
Even if you're not registered
even
as
if
a
you're not
workplace?
registered as a workplace.
What do you mean
Okay.
by registered?
You have
So
to-
you're a school,
Yes,
okay?
yes.
You are a public school.
Yes,
Built by government.
yes,
Maintained by government.
Correct.
Registered by government.
correct.
So what more registration do you need?
There is a workplace in this Occupational Safety and Health Act. You must register as a, it says, before any person occupies or uses any premises as a workplace, he shall apply for registration of the premises by sending to the director a written notice containing the particulars set out in the 4th schedule.
So if I don't, then I'm not a workplace?
You are a unregistered workplace.
Okay,
You are a
but-
workplace, but you are unregistered with the Ministry of Labour.
So looking at let's say schools, all right?
Yes.
So it's the job of the Ministry of Education to go to this director and say, these are workplaces under me.
It is the job of the school,
It's cool.
each school,
The school head,
school administration,
Right.
to go to the Ministry of Labour, DOSHS, and register. I have clients who have done that, many, who are
Public?
schools, public and private.
So it's the job of State House Controller, for example,
Yes.
to go to DSSS and go and register State House
Correct.
as a workplace.
As a workplace.
So there's a possibility that State House is not registered as a workplace.
Possibility is the word which you can use.
Yeah, unless we see it. But it's a responsibility of each of these people in every place. I'm just thinking about government and
Correct.
government entities
Yes.
and government offices.
Just because you're in the government
doesn't mean that you're registered
No,
by this.
No.
Isn't it a nonsensical requirement, though?
It is the law. And you know what they say about the law?
Why must you register as a workplace
I hear Eric's question
separately?
that it might be obvious. That it might be obvious that you're a workplace.
No.
So it's not obvious?
It is not obvious because have you registered as like I said, WIBA? Your claim will fail in WIBA if you work
not
in an
registered.
unregistered workplace.
Workplace.
Because the first word of WIBA is work. So where were you? Were you at work or were you at home? So the statutory space works upon these definitions which are written in stone.
I'm sorry, I'm just getting pedantic here, right? On this
That's very
particular
fair.
one.
It's very fair.
When the crafters of this law were putting that requirement there,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
What was their thinking? If, for instance, I'm operating an office in Nairobi, it's a workplace, isn't
Yes.
it?
Yes.
I go to the authorities in the city county government. I apply for a business permit.
Correct.
Okay, which I'm required to display. I'm also required to take a fire safety permit
Yes.
with the city of Nairobi.
Yes.
But you're saying that all those places, unless I have registered my office with this ministry, it is not a workplace.
No,
Isn't
it is
that
a workplace, but it is
an
unregistered.
registered
Unregistered.
workplace?
Yes.
Isn't that a duplication of effort? Isn't that just sending me? So I'm starting an office, I go and register to be with those ones, I go and take a license here, I go to...
That the only reason I'm doing
Those
all
are
of this
things-
registration is because I am a workplace.
Yes.
So it should be obvious to everybody.
Shouldn't it be obvious?
There's also a distinction between county laws and acts of parliament. the Nairobi City County has its bylaws which require you to get your business permit and your fire clearance through the Nairobi Fire Brigade.
Okay.
This is about the nation. This is national legislation which supersedes county legislation.
I know.
So this is what the government of Kenya in its wisdom has legislated for, and it is supreme.
Okay.
I'm just thinking, and you're a lawyer, you of course understand law. Maybe the Director General of DOSH should use these other officers as his agent. Use the county as your agent. So as long as the county is issuing a license, then that
direct registration. There should be a line on the application that says we're registering
or sends
for
this information to
status.
the
And hence this discussion.
Yeah.
But I know in other jurisdictions, like in the UK, that is happening.
Okay. I know Eric was going to break. Just one question as we're going into that. So I'm going to go back to the issue of schools.
Yes.
Right? I would like us to look at some of the requirements that are absolutely necessary for schools, especially with a boarding function, to operate under when it comes to housing children in school. And what is a bare minimum? What are the bare minimums to then have children living in school when it comes to fire?
So, since we have established school is a workplace, the bare minimum you must have is adequate means of escape or egress. Meaning you must have alternative fire exits. You cannot just have one way in, one way out, unless you're a very tiny room. But if we're talking about dormitories, it is incumbent that you then, if you will lose one in a fire, which usually is the case, and we always say you might even, it's more probable that you will use the main one. If you lose that one, you must have an alternative. And depending on the number and the capacity of people in that dormitory, the more the exits become exponential. So if we're having hundreds of people and we're having 100, 200, there's a new building code, and I was reading it the other day, and the exits just continue to increase according to the occupancy. So you must have exits, you must have signage to tell me this direction, that direction. You must have an alternative lighting system so that in the darkness, dormitories are sleeping accommodation, very risky because people are asleep. You must have a method of detecting fire and providing warning, which is more commonly known as a fire alarm system. So one, it detects the smoke, and two, sends a warning signal. You must have a minimum threshold of firefighting equipment in terms of portable fire extinguishers, and even to larger buildings, fire hose reels, fire hydrants, sprinkler systems, fire suppression systems. You must have maps, which I saw at the entrance of your office, showing you a detailed evacuation route. You must prepare a fire safety policy detailing the procedures and the responsibilities of all the people within that workplace. You must have training every 2 years, training approved by DOSHS, the regulator, every 2 years, following their curriculum. You must have fire staders who are trained on an annual basis, following the same curriculum, DOSHS curriculum. You must have first aid rooms if you employ more than 500 people. You must have a nurse. Those are now the first aid regulations. They say that if you have more than 500 staff, you must have a first aid room. It must have a nurse. It must have the equipment, stethoscopes, blood pressure monitors, and an examination couch, a table, a chair, a sink. These are statutory minimum requirements. Minimum, I repeat.
Then Kenya is a walking disaster.
Let's take a break. Let's just take a break. We are talking about fire. Does the law in the Republic of Kenya recognize fire? Yes. There's an Occupational Safety, Health and Safety Act. That's what it's called, right?
Yes, Occupational Safety and Health Act 2007.
Safety and Health Act. There's a regulator on matters of fire in this country. It's called DOSHS, the Directorate of Occupational Safety and Health Safety. Health Safety Standards. Health Services.
Directorate of Occupational Safety and Health Services.
And Health Services. That's the regulator on these matters. So all these things are in place. Now we are coming to the ground and seeing, so is it enforceable? Is it being enforced? Wilson Goko is an advocate of the High Court and a fire safety auditor, licensed by the DOSHS. We'll be back shortly.
The situation.